and welcome to Getting to Know ACS with Tracy
and Jasmine.
So today we have Tephanie Hopper with the volunteer program. So Tephanie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
And very first question, tell us, what is the volunteer program here at ACS?
Well, the Army Volunteer Program, what we do in our office is we recruit volunteers, soldiers, family members, and civilians to volunteer within the community, whether it's Fort Bliss community or the El Paso community as well. We also recognize volunteers for their selfless service. We also use a tracking mechanism, modernized Vemus 2.0. 2.0. And, you know, what... That's what we do. So what we do is we place volunteers, recognize volunteers, and we also do the record keeping for the volunteer program.
Okay, so you already mentioned, you just jumped right in there. You mentioned Vemus 2.0.
I don't know what that is.
You were supposed to say 2.0.
Oh.
Come on, Jasmine.
Like, guys, what are we doing?
You're like, I don't know what that is. Anyway, so what is Vemus?
Okay, the Volunteer Management Information System. It is a tracking system for volunteers to track their volunteer hours, their training, their awards, and all of that. Also, is accessibility for volunteers. And then we have Organization Point of Contacts, our OPOCs. They are the people who certify volunteer hours and awards. And then it's my accessibility as I'm a volunteer corps manager. I will accept agencies into the system.
Okay, so one of the benefits for being in Vemus is because it's all digital, right?
Yes.
So regardless of where a person goes, they can always have access to that record. Because, when you're volunteering, unlike when you're working, you always know who your manager is. You know how to go back. But sometimes with volunteering, it's like, oh, I don't remember who was in charge of me. So with Vemus, they would be able to put that information in there, right?
Yeah, and the important part of it is also, you're talking about moving place to place. It also has a backlog of what did I do.
Oh, okay.
So your position description. So say, for instance, you were a social media volunteer last year, and you don't remember your exact details of the social media experience, and you want to use it for your resume. So you can go into Vemus, and you can look at that PD, and you can transition it into your resume to highlight that volunteer opportunity on your resume, and you can maybe get some points.
Okay, and a PD is a position
description.
Okay,
yes.
So and one of the things, can you tell us, what are the benefits? What does somebody gain from volunteering?
Oh my God, they gain so much, Tracy. Thank you for asking that question. Volunteering, it provides you with a foot in the door regarding job opportunities. So I started out as a volunteer. In volunteering, if I didn't volunteer, well, I would be a volunteer manager. But volunteering pretty much adds to your resume. So like I said, a social media person, they can put that on their resume. Also, it gets people out of the house.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It gets people out of the house. You can take a break from your kids. And also it adds to, scholarships. You can put that on your scholarship. You can also put it for college applications. So there's a lot of benefits of volunteering across the nation.
So is there, do you guys have a pairing system? I would like to volunteer, but there's some things that I do not want to do. I'm not doing that. But there are some things where I, love animals. So, I would be okay working with animals. Do you guys have, a pairing system, or do you guys ask questions?
Yeah, what we do is we do an introduction to volunteering workshop. And during that workshop, we have them to fill out a piece of paper or, a form. Pre-COVID. Now what I do is I talk to them about what are your interests. So if you want to work with animals, we might place you with the Animal Society. If you want to work with kids, we might place you with the Court-Appointed Special Advocates. So it's based on what you want. Now, certain places are not available because of COVID, of course. Right. So we have a limitation of, places that we can place volunteers.
Okay. And then what about for those people who don't know what they like? What if they're just got married and they're just I don't even know life, right? So
what I'll do, I might say USO, these are the opportunities that USO has available, or this is the opportunity that ACS has available. And then what I'll do is I'll give them the top 3 places that are in great need of volunteers throughout El Paso. And that's what I'll say, well, I'll connect you to these places, and I'll send out those places an email with the volunteer's information on it, and they'll contact that volunteer.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So, and it's, you mentioned the USO, which is here on post and stuff, but the volunteers that you place, or, when you're doing that assessment, it's not necessarily that they're going to be volunteering here on post.
No, not necessarily. So it depends on what they want to do. So like I said, CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates, a lot of military,
One of my favorites.
yeah, great opportunity where you can advocate for kids who have been abused or neglected. So with that said, there's a lot of people who want to get social work experience. And at Fort Bliss, there's not a lot of opportunities for social work experience. So what I will do is I work with CASA and I place volunteers there. And then also Big Brothers Big Sisters, where they can mentor, youth as well. So it depends on what they want to do, and I connect them to agencies at Fort Bliss or those in the El Paso community.
And I'm glad you brought up about CASA and the social work, because I don't know, Jasmine, isn't that one of the calls that you get all the time?
Yes, so many calls.
Is that I need hours for my social work. And then, of course, they want to volunteer with the family advocacy program, but because of our program, it's not, feasible for them to actually volunteer with us. And a lot of times, even though we have social workers in that program, they're not like supervisory social workers that can give them those credit hours that they need.
Yeah, that's correct. So besides CASA, like the Veterans Nonprofit can give somebody social work experience. The Veteran Nonprofit, what they do is they help veterans who, might be homeless. They give them food. They give them clothes. So that's another place where social workers can get experience in, for their resume or for their jobs.
And I like, you mentioned in the resume thing, because especially with military spouses, as you move from place to place, you may have those gaps in employment. And so volunteering actually helps to fill in those gaps. And it's like, well, I may not have been in a paid position, but here I've been volunteering.
Yes.
And as you said, a great opportunity to get your foot in the door.
A great opportunity. And then what I like to tell volunteers when they are thinking about volunteering is that when it should be like a regular job. You need to make sure that you show up on time, you dress on time, you have the best customer service, because you don't want them to say, well, this volunteer wasn't good, so we're not going to take volunteers anymore. But you never know the connections you might make. You might not get a job at CASA, but that CASA person can write a recommendation for you to get a job, at your next duty station. So when you are volunteering, it is a job. You're just not getting paid for it.
Right. But I think even though you're not getting paid
monetarily, but you're getting paid in experience and skills and just so much connections. And, some places I like to talk about the VA.
Talk about it then, girl. Talk about the VA.
I love the VA. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
The VA provides free lunch for volunteers.
What? Oh, I love food.
I want to give a shout out to Ron Rucker.
Okay.
He is the volunteer coordinator at the VA. And he said they're looking for volunteers.
Tell them if they feed me, I can go on weekends.
Feed me and they will come. Right? Food, they will come.
Hey.
Food brings in people.
There you go.
So if you volunteer at least 4 hours, they will provide you a free lunch, and that's a benefit of volunteering.
Yeah, because I'm down for some free lunch.
I'm down for some free lunch too.
Okay.
And what types of things do you do? Does a volunteer do there?
Well, what they do is their customer service. They also transition VA patients around the area. They have like a bus driver system. They have the food cart. They have the book cart. And they work in the different facilities. They might work in immunology or wherever. They work in the different clinics of the VA.
And I think that's, a wonderful thing, because you're giving back to the community. And I think one of the things about volunteering is to have that. It's like, okay, I'm helping my community, even if you're not, like you said, getting paid monetarily. You're able to get paid with that satisfaction that, I gave back to my community. So, and with the volunteer program here on Post, do you have an age limit? because I know especially over the summer you're going to get a lot of inquiries about where can my kid go, because I need them out the house.
It's been too long. They've been home.
They've been home for a year. I need them gone.
They've been home. Well, so it depends on that agency, honestly. So some agencies will take volunteers as young as 12 who are about to turn 13, like Child and Youth Services Center, the thrift store, the libraries. Those are the places that will take youth volunteers across our installation, but it really depends on their requirement.
Okay. So I would, I know some school districts pre-COVID used to have that stipulation, that you had to have so many volunteer hours in order to graduate. So that's a good resource for them once we get out of this whole thing and people can actually go out and actually volunteer in person, is to come and contact you. So I know when in your intro, you talked about recognition. How does Fort Bliss recognize their volunteers?
Well, can we go back to the youth volunteering
conversation?
Girl, yes. Yeah, so we're going to do a youth volunteer fair on our Facebook Live, because that's what we usually do with the employment readiness program. But with COVID, we can't really do it in person. So we're going to do a youth volunteer fair on our Facebook. So we're going to connect our youth to opportunities, Fort Bliss and El Paso. So that's what we're in the works on. I think it's going to be May 15th. So look out for that on our...
Now, I didn't mean to cut you off, but, besides like this year, but normally, I know there's a set time normally during the year that you guys do that.
We usually do it in May.
So any year, whether it's 2021 or 2022, we'll be able to see that, okay, this volunteer hiring fair with the youth is usually held in May. I just wanted, I don't want anybody to think, okay, when is it? So
it's usually held in May, and thank you for talking about adding those hours for people that were required before they graduated.
Right.
That was a stipulation, and honestly, I'm not sure if it still was, because they were actually going to take it away for a minute.
Okay.
But that's a great opportunity, and you want to teach your kids about giving back, because my kids, they still give back. They've been volunteering since they were, little. And because, just like, your kids. So a lot of them volunteered, were voluntold to do things across our community. And my youngest one, he's not really into volunteering that much, but my oldest one, I spoke to him, and he's always giving back. He volunteers with the church. He's helped build gardens. So when you teach a child, as they say,
teach them as they come up. So,
that's right.
If you give them that opportunity, if they grow up volunteer, it's just going to be natural for them.
Yes.
They're not even going to think, later. It's like, oh, what am I,
I feel like it helps teach social skills too, because like mine don't volunteer, because I've been looking to volunteer, but again, there's some things where I'm just like, I'm not doing that. Like that doesn't sound
and it's
fun
okay,
right? So
when you volunteer, you don't have to do things. That's the cool thing about volunteering. You don't have to do things that you don't want to do.
Yeah, and so she has no, I guess, communication skill, or she's not very social, right? So I've been looking to volunteer so she can just practice on talking to people, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's fun though. I might check out that event.
Yeah, and then how old is your child?
12.
But isn't she turning 13? Like, no, she just turned 12.
She just turned 12
today.
Yeah. But she
happy
loves
birthday.
Right? She loves books, and that's why when you brought up the library, I was
a
just
great
like, oh
opportunity with the city animal services. You can read to cats.
Read to
cats. I'm doing that. Can I get some rap lyrics and just read them
you can do, and I love that, because it teaches your kids to improve their reading, and then it improve social skills. So yes, your daughter can read to cats.
Read to cats.
Read to cats.
What about the
our
dogs?
Can
I do
dogs.
that?
I'm like, what about the dogs?
I mean, you can too. You can too.
I can't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, what y'all do this week? I've read to cats, y'all. And dogs.
I'm like, don't leave the dogs out.
Well, you can read to cats and dogs. Cats and dogs. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I thought that's a great idea, isn't it?
You just made my life so much better.
Jasmine's gonna be reading the cats every weekend.
Reading the cats. What you doing the Friday night? I'm reading the cats.
I'm reading the cats. This is my life. Okay, that's interesting. Fun. Okay, but
What is probably the craziest volunteer? Like not crazy as in, but like what?
Outrageous
Yes.
or like the most unexpected type
Yes.
of volunteer.
I don't know.
Reading to cats.
That's pretty crazy.
Reading to cats and dogs. That's you know, you can volunteer at the zoo to pick up poop. I mean, that's you
I don't know. Is that really? That's like one of those voluntold positions.
You know, before you can actually, you have to pick up poop too with the animal services too.
Yeah.
But I think working with animals.
Yeah, you
know,
have to do
you
that.
gotta do. That's part of taking
hasn't-
care of an animal.
There
so.
hasn't been any outrageous opportunities, Jasmine, that I am aware of.
Okay.
I think you mentioned one.
Probably the
Reading
reading
cat.
Reading the
cats.
cats. I mean,
Which
other
is
than,
honestly like I'm just like, oh, I'm doing.
other than that, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know.
But so there's those opportunities there. But again, in going back, I want to make sure that we touch on how you recognize those recognize the volunteers in the community every year, because is it April that is month of the volunteer?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. National Volunteer Week happens every April, sometimes in the March, depending on when Easter takes place. So during in our office, we recognize volunteers for their contributions to our community during our National Volunteer Week award ceremony that takes place at the Centennial Club. This year it's at April 22nd at 1:30 p.m. We recognize one volunteer a year per brigade or per organization. We also recognize youth volunteers, so you can get your daughter in. Maybe next year she'll be recognized. Outstanding youth volunteer. We also have outstanding family volunteers as well, brother, sister, mother, father, father, son, that type of volunteer recognition. We also recognize outstanding ambassadors, and that's a new criteria. Outstanding ambassador is recognizing volunteers who contribute to the community outside of our gates. So
Okay.
family members, soldiers, DOD civilians. If you volunteer with CASA, you can get nominated for that. Maybe you volunteer with your church, Abundant Living Faith Center, or something like that. You can recognize volunteers for their efforts. And then another award that we have newly established is a Community Spirit Award.
Okay, what's that?
Community Spirit Award is working as a group. So maybe your FRG did something with the Junior Enlisted Family Center. Our
Okay.
boss done something with the El Paso and Fighting Hunger Food Bank. You can recognize them for their efforts.
Okay, that's awesome. I think that's wonderful, and like you said, that's every year. That's going to be in April because that's the month of the volunteer. And then just depending on when it is, the ceremony varies throughout the year, but it happens every year.
Yes.
Right. And so when we're recognizing those volunteers, I think that's a wonderful way to give back to the volunteers because they are volunteering their time to us, to the community and stuff. And,
It lets them know that we appreciate them giving their time, their skills, their service to our community. And you might say, they might want to come back to volunteer because, I gave them an award. It's not just the awards, but, thank you cards, chocolate, whatever, kudos. You can improve the morale of the volunteer as well. I wanted to mention another award too.
Okay.
That's not just National Volunteer Week award. It's our Helping Hand Award, and that's given out throughout the year.
Okay, so the Helping Hand Award is given out all year. And with that Helping Hand Award, what is some of the criteria to get a Helping Hand Award?
The criteria is 100 hours in Vemus.
Okay, so that's the key. We gotta bring it back around to Vemus.
Got to get that Vemus.
The Volunteer Management Information System, because you need to have proof that these 100 hours, that you actually
contributed.
Yeah, so get those registered for that Vemus. Now, do I just log on, or do you have a class that teaches how to use Vemus?
We do have a class every other month. We have a class on modernized Vemus. However, if you cannot get into that class, they can contact me and I'll do a Microsoft Teams one-on-one with them.
Okay.
Nice.
And so how can someone contact you if they're interested in volunteering or interested in getting their kids to volunteer, what is your contact information on how they can contact you?
They can contact me through fortblissvolunteer@yahoo.com.
Okay.
And then we also, our phone number is 915-569-5500. And then we also have a Facebook, Fort Bliss Volunteers, and we also have an Instagram.
Oh, Instagram. She's fancy, huh?
We are fancy. Instagram. So we also have Twitter.
What?
We have 3 social media platforms.
You're on all the social media.
We're on everything.
Okay. All
Except
of
for
it.
Snapchat. We don't do Snapchat.
Well, okay, Snapchat is amazing though.
Yeah, we don't do Snapchat.
gotta do
We're not
like little
chatting it
video.
up.
But
You gotta record the
you can do
reading
like
to cats.
reading to cats on the Snapchat.
Like,
girl.
look what Tephanie got me on.
I don't know about that Snapchatting.
You know,
We're
you
on
could-
Twitter. We're on enough platforms for now. We got to slow our roll on the platforms.
You're
So
right.
you're gonna
Yeah.
have to get some younger volunteers
need
with you to get
Younger
you on the
volunteers.
Snapchat.
Yes, so come on by, younger volunteers.
And speaking of volunteering, you even accept volunteers in your program. If I'm not overstepping, do you? Or
We do accept volunteers, but we are on a volunteer hiatus because of COVID.
COVID, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we've had some excellent volunteers in the AVC program. I love all my volunteers. Yeah.
and some of your volunteers that have worked with you have actually gotten hired.
Yes, 90% of them have gotten hired. I want to say 90% of them have gotten hired.
Say it again.
90% of them have gotten hired.
Just because I like to hear you say it.
Yes, we have the AVZ program. The thing is, I always pick out the best volunteers.
Hey,
And the best volunteers always get hired.
that's how it
That's
works.
how it works, you know.
Okay.
You know, show what you're working with, and like, wow, you know, you're hired.
So, is there any, Jasmine? Do you have any other questions that you want to ask?
I'm so excited. I think I'm gonna sign up because I need to read to cats. But no, I don't. This was interesting because that's a lot.
I'm like, you're
That's a
so,
lot of information.
You're so happy to,
I know.
to go read a cat.
Right, and I'm gonna do VA because, like I said, I love food.
That free lunch got her.
Free lunch.
Is there anything that you would like to add that that I possibly didn't cover, but is there something that you would like our listeners to know about the volunteer program?
Well, sign up for our classes. You know, we're on Microsoft Teams, and sign up for the Facebook Live for the youth volunteering and change the world. Okay. Volunteer.
I do have one last question.
You have one.
Can you do it as a family?
Yes, we as a family, like El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank, you can come as a family. We also have the Kelly Memorial Food Pantry where you can come as a family as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, with the food banks and in feeding the homeless or whatever, people need to volunteer in those programs besides the holidays.
Oh my goodness! Thank you for mentioning that. That's so true, because that after Christmas in July, people still are hungry and people still are homeless. So you need to get out and give back to the community between those holidays.
Because, they still need help.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know during the holidays, sometimes they have a abundance of volunteers that everybody can't even volunteer. But you don't think about, it's March, nothing's going on. Can I go volunteer down there? Because they need volunteers year-round, not just during the holidays.
Yes, India, El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank, they really do need volunteers. They're feeding about previously during November, they were feeding 6,000 to 9,000 families.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
So they are in great need.
Okay. Yeah, so just a volunteer isn't just for the holidays. Volunteer is a year-round.
Year-round.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, Tephanie, a question that I like to ask our guest before we close it out. Tell me what brings you the greatest joy in being the volunteer coordinator.
Oh my God. What brings me the greatest joy is recognizing volunteers. I love when volunteers are recognized, and the ceremony, and I don't give them their awards, the general gives them their awards, but that gives me the greatest joy. And then when they meet me after the ceremony, they're saying, oh my God, I didn't even know I was going to get recognized, and thank you for doing this. It just, oh my God, it brings tears to my eyes. I don't want to start crying.
Look, you're gonna cry.
Oh my God,
our first crier.
I know. It really does my heart good when volunteers are shown, recognition for their service. It does.
That's awesome. So, Tephanie, thank you so much for joining us today and coming out and letting the Fort Bliss public know about the volunteer program. And again, if they need to contact you, you have that email, which is the Fort Bliss Volunteers at Gmail.
Fort Bliss Volunteer at yahoo.com.
Okay.
Fort Bliss Volunteer at yahoo.com.
Fort Bliss Volunteer at yahoo.com. They can contact you that, or they can call 915 569
550, but also like us on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
And on Instagram, and not on Snapchat.
Okay. And read your Twitters.
And read the Twitters. Yeah.
Okay. The tweets.
The tweet.
I was like, we're saying Twitters. We sound so, they're tweets.
They're tweets. Well, they are tweeting.
Tweeting, okay. So, with that being said, again, thank you so much for being with us today. And that's going to conclude our podcast for today. So, thanks for listening to Getting to Know ACS with Tracy
and Jasmine. Don't forget to hit on that notification and that bell to get notified.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.